Dr. Hana Kim stared at her screen and felt her heart stop. The numbers made no sense. Something massive had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. And it had not been there 5 minutes ago. She ran her calculations again. Then again. The result stayed the same. Whatever had arrived was bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Much bigger. Commander Ji-won, you need to see this, Hana said into her headset. Her voice shook despite her efforts to stay calm. Commander Ji-won floated through the zero-gravity corridor of the International Space Monitoring Station. She had been reviewing supply reports when Hana's call came through. The tone in the scientist's voice made her move faster. What do we have? Ji-won asked as she entered the observation deck. Hana pointed at the main display. 23 objects. They appeared simultaneously at the outer system boundary. Each one is at least 5 kilometers long. Ji-won felt ice in her stomach. Are you certain these readings are correct? I've checked everything 3 times. Commander, these ships just appeared out of nowhere. They didn't travel here. They just materialized. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. They both understood what this meant. Humanity had finally encountered alien life. And those aliens had technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. Send everything to Earth Command, Ji-won said quietly. Mark it Priority Alpha. Then get me visual confirmation. Down on Earth, Captain Minho Park was climbing into his fighter when the alarm began screaming. Every pilot in the Pacific Defense Squadron froze. That particular alarm had never sounded before. It was the one reserved for the impossible. All pilots to ready stations, the loudspeaker announced. This is not a drill. Unknown contacts detected in outer system. Prepare for possible hostile engagement. Minho's hands moved automatically, checking his flight suit and helmet. Around him, other pilots rushed to their aircraft. No one spoke. They all knew their fighters were designed for Earth's atmosphere. If something came from space, they would be nearly useless. But they would fly anyway. In the United Nations headquarters, emergency lights flashed in every corridor. World leaders appeared on screens from every nation on Earth. The Secretary General's face was pale as he addressed them. 17 minutes ago, we detected multiple unknown vessels entering our solar system. Initial analysis suggests these are not natural objects. We are attempting communication now. On the main screen, an image appeared. It showed one of the alien ships. The vessel was dark, angular, and covered in what looked like weapons. It did not look friendly. Dear God, someone whispered. The communication attempt took 6 minutes to reach the alien fleet. The message was simple, transmitted in mathematical sequences and basic scientific principles. It said, "We are humanity. We come in peace. Please identify yourselves." End quote. The response came back faster than it should have. The aliens had moved closer while Earth waited. The message appeared on every screen simultaneously. It was in perfect English and dozens of other Earth languages. The translation was flawless. Someone had been watching humanity for a long time. Attention, primitive species of the third planet. You have been selected for integration into the Krell Empire. Cease all military activities. Prepare for landing of administrative forces. Resistance will result in total extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply. The message repeated in every language humans spoke. The meaning was crystal clear. Surrender or die. In the monitoring station, Ji-won read the message and felt something shift inside her. Fear remained, but anger rose beside it. These aliens thought humanity would simply give up their world without a fight. Get me a secure line to Earth Command, she ordered. All channels. And start tracking those ships. I want to know everything about them. Hana worked frantically at her console. Commander, I'm detecting smaller craft launching from the main vessels. Hundreds of them. They're heading toward Earth. Time to intercept? 4 hours at their current speed. Ji-won activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel, battle stations. This is not a drill. We are at war. On Earth, the response came swiftly. Every nation activated their military forces. Ancient rivalries were forgotten in an instant. Humanity faced extinction, and politics no longer mattered. Minho's fighter squadron launched within 30 minutes of the alert. 20 aircraft climbed into the upper atmosphere, their pilots knowing they might not return. Behind them, hundreds more squadrons around the world did the same. Pacific Squadron. This is ground control. The radio crackled. We're tracking multiple hostile craft entering atmosphere. Your orders are to engage and assess enemy capabilities. Record everything. Good luck. Minho checked his weapons systems. His fighter carried missiles designed to shoot down other aircraft. He had no idea if they would work against alien ships. Squadron. Maintain formation. He transmitted. Remember your training. And remember what we're fighting for. C9. 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 The first alien craft appeared on radar 20 minutes later. Minho's breath caught when he saw it. The vessel moved unlike anything he had ever seen, making turns that should have been impossible. Engaging, he called out, and fired his first missile. The weapon struck the alien ship dead center. For a moment, Minho felt hope. Then the explosion cleared, and the alien craft emerged undamaged. Some kind of energy shield flickered around it. Shields confirmed, Minho reported. Missiles ineffective. Trying cannon. He dove toward the alien ship, guns blazing. The bullets sparked against the shield but did not penetrate. The alien vessel turned toward him, moving with impossible speed. A beam of purple light lanced from the ship. It missed Minho by meters, but he felt the heat through his cockpit. That beam would have vaporized his fighter. Break formation, he shouted. Evasive maneuvers. These things are deadly. Around the world, the same scene repeated. Human fighters engaged alien craft and discovered how outmatched they were. Shields stopped every weapon. Alien beams destroyed fighters with single shots. The technology gap was enormous, but humanity kept fighting. In the monitoring station, Jiwon watched the battle unfold across multiple screens. Human losses were heavy. Too heavy. But every engagement provided data. Every attack revealed something about the enemy. Hana, analyze the shield patterns, she ordered. There has to be a weakness. I'm seeing fluctuations when they fire their weapons, Hana reported. Just for a split second, the shields seemed to drop power. Send that to all combat units immediately. On Earth, military leaders gathered around holographic displays. They watched their forces die, and they planned. The aliens expected humanity to surrender. Instead, humans began adapting. Their tactics are predictable, one general observed. They rely entirely on superior technology. They fight like they've never faced real resistance. Then we give them something they don't expect, another replied. The Krell fleet commander reviewed the initial engagement reports with satisfaction. Human resistance was fierce but ultimately futile. Their weapons could not penetrate Krell shields. Their craft were primitive. This conquest would follow the standard pattern. 200 worlds had fallen before the Krell using these exact tactics. World 201 would be no different. But as night fell on Earth's first day of war, something unexpected happened. Humanity did not request surrender terms. Instead, every nation on Earth broadcast the same message to the alien fleet. You want our world? Come and take it. Commander Jiwon watched Earth from her station window. Lights blazed across the planet's surface as humanity mobilized for total war. She thought about the message the Krell had sent. Integration, administration, extinction. They had given humanity one day to surrender. That day was ending, and Earth's answer was clear. Hana, Jiwon said quietly. How long until their main fleet reaches orbit? 18 hours. Then we have 18 hours to figure out how to kill them. Below. Minho Park landed his damaged fighter and immediately climbed into a replacement. Around him, ground crews worked frantically to rearm every aircraft. Ammunition was running low, but determination was not. The Krell had made their first mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare. They would not make that mistake again. But by then, it would be too late. The war for Earth had begun. The Krell troop ships descended on Seoul like falling stars. Colonel Sora Yoon watched them through her binoculars from the fortified position on the city's northern edge. Each ship was the size of a building, and there were dozens of them. "All units hold fire," she commanded into her radio. "Wait for my signal." Her soldiers crouched behind concrete barriers and sandbags. They had spent the last 18 hours preparing these positions. Now, they would discover if human tactics could overcome alien technology. The first Krell ship landed in the middle of a major intersection. Its massive doors opened, and the aliens emerged. They were tall creatures, nearly 3 meters high, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Each one carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. The Krell moved with confidence. They had done this 200 times before. They expected terrified civilians and scattered military resistance. They expected an easy victory. They got something very different. "Now," Sora whispered into her radio. The entire intersection exploded. Humans had spent all night planting explosives under the street. The blast threw Krell soldiers into the air and flipped their transport ship onto its side. Before the aliens could recover, machine gun fire erupted from every building around them. The Krell shields absorbed most of the bullets, but not all. The intense, concentrated fire from multiple directions caused the shields to flicker. When they did, some rounds got through. Krell soldiers fell. "Keep firing," Sora ordered. "Don't let them regroup." This scene repeated across Seoul and dozens of other cities worldwide. Humans had learned from the first day's battles. They knew bullets alone would not work, but overwhelming firepower from multiple angles, combined with explosives and traps, could overcome the shields. The Krell had expected primitive warfare. Instead, they faced coordinated ambushes and tactical excellence. At an underground military research facility, Dr. Hyun Lee worked frantically on the wreckage of a Krell fighter. The damaged craft had crashed during yesterday's battle, and the military had immediately brought it to his lab. "This technology is centuries ahead of ours," Hyun muttered as he examined the shield generator. "But the principles are still based on electromagnetic fields. We can work with this." His team had not slept in 36 hours. They cut into alien metal with human tools, photographed every component, and ran countless tests. The Krell shields were incredibly advanced, but they were not magic. They could be understood. Dr. Hyun, one of his assistants, called out, "I found something. The power source has a cycling pattern. Every 12 seconds, it dips for 0.3 seconds to prevent overheating." Hyun rushed over to look at the data. His tired mind suddenly became very alert. "That's the weakness. 0.3 seconds is enough. Get this information to every combat unit immediately. Our people need to know when to fire. Our people need to know when to fire." In another facility, Lieutenant Nari Choi sat in front of 20 computer screens. She was humanity's best hacker, and she had just accomplished the impossible. She had broken into the Krell communication network. "I'm in," she announced to her commanding officer. "Their encryption is strong, but it's also standardized. They use the same codes for everything because they never expected anyone to hack them." "What can you see?" the officer asked. "Everything. Troop positions, supply routes, command communications. They're not even trying to hide their data. Their entire empire has never faced cyber warfare before." Nari's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Sending all tactical data to our forces now. And sir, I'm going to do something the Krell won't expect. I'm going to teach them what real cyber warfare looks like." She launched a virus into the Krell network. It was simple but effective. It would scramble their targeting systems for random intervals, not enough to shut them down, but enough to give human soldiers a fighting chance. Back in Seoul, the battle had turned into a brutal street fight. The Krell had landed more troops, but they quickly discovered that humans were excellent at urban warfare. Every building was a fortress. Every alley was a trap. Every corner hid soldiers with weapons. Colonel Sora led her forces with ruthless efficiency. She had studied every military conflict in human history during her career. Now she used that knowledge against an enemy that had only known easy victories. Second platoon, collapse that building on them, she ordered. Fourth platoon, hit them from the subway tunnels. Keep them confused. Make them afraid. The Krell warriors were individually superior to human soldiers. Their armor was better. Their weapons more powerful. Their bodies stronger. But they had never fought an enemy that refused to fight fair. Humans used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and what the Krell could only see as treachery. But to humans, it was called survival. Minho Park's fighter squadron had been reinforced with new orders based on Dr. Hyun's research. They now knew about the shield cycling weakness. It was a tiny window, but human pilots were trained to exploit tiny windows. Squadron, weapons free in 3, 2, 1, mark. Minho called out. 20 fighters fired simultaneously at a single Krell craft. The timing was perfect. The alien shields were in their dip cycle. Half the missiles got through. The Krell ship exploded in a ball of fire. Target destroyed, Minho reported, allowing himself a moment of satisfaction. Switching to next target. For the first time since the invasion began, human forces were winning engagements. The victories were small and costly, but they were victories. More importantly, they were learning. Commander Ji-won coordinated the global defense from her space station. Information flowed to her from every battle around the world. She processed it all, looking for patterns and opportunities. The Krell are adapting their tactics, Hana reported from her station. They're becoming more cautious. Good, Ji-won replied. Caution means doubt. Doubt means they're starting to realize this won't be easy. A priority message appeared on her screen. It was from Lieutenant Nari's Cyber Warfare Division. Ji-won read it and allowed herself a small smile. Hana, we just got access to Krell communications. Start analyzing their command structure. I want to know how they think, how they plan, and where they're vulnerable. The Krell fleet commander reviewed casualty reports with growing confusion. Human resistance should have collapsed by now. Instead, it was intensifying. More troubling, the humans were learning at an impossible rate. Tactics that worked yesterday failed today. Strategies that should have guaranteed victory were somehow being countered. The commander sent a message back to the Krell Empire. Request reinforcements. Native species showing unexpected resistance. Recommend increasing force allocation. The response came back quickly. Denied. Proceed with current forces. 200 worlds have fallen using standard tactics. Complete conquest and move to next target. The commander stared at the message. The Krell Empire did not understand. These humans were different. But orders were orders. The conquest would continue. In Seoul, Colonel Sora's forces had been fighting for 16 hours straight. They were exhausted, running low on ammunition, and outnumbered by at least 10 to 1. By every logical assessment, they should retreat or surrender. Instead, Sora ordered her forces to advance. The Krell expect us to run, she told her officers. They've seen 200 species run. We're going to show them what happens when humans get angry. Her soldiers moved through the ruined streets with grim determination. They had lost friends today. They had seen their city burning. They were tired, hurt, and scared. But they were also absolutely furious. The Krell had made a fundamental mistake. They had attacked Earth expecting to face frightened primitives. Instead, they faced warriors who fought not just for survival, but for revenge. As night fell on the second day of war, the situation was desperate but not hopeless. Human casualties were enormous. Cities were damaged. But the invasion had been stopped at multiple points. The Krell controlled some territory, but they controlled nothing easily. More importantly, humans now had Krell prisoners. They had captured equipment. They had broken into alien communications. And they were reverse engineering alien technology at a pace the Krell thought impossible. Dr. Hyun's team worked through the night, taking apart Krell weapons and shield generators. Every hour brought new understanding. Every discovery was immediately shared with military forces worldwide. "We can build copies of their shields," Hyun reported to military command. "It will take weeks, but we can do it. And I have ideas for improving their weapons. Human engineering might be primitive, but we understand some things they don't." Lieutenant Nari expanded her cyber attack. She had moved from simply observing Krell communications to actively disrupting them. False orders were sent. Navigation systems were scrambled. The Krell logistics network began breaking down. "They're arguing with each other," Nari reported with satisfaction. "Their commanders can't tell which orders are real and which are fake. I've got them fighting ghosts." On the monitoring station, Commander Jiwon compiled all the data. She saw the bigger picture forming. The Krell were powerful, but they were also rigid. They followed predictable patterns. They relied on their technology instead of creative thinking. "They've been fighting for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt," Jiwon told Hana. "They crush everyone with overwhelming force. But when that force isn't enough, they don't know what to do." "Can we beat them?" Hana asked quietly. Jiwon looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defenders fighting desperately across the globe. She thought about Minho risking his life in the skies, about Sora holding Seoul against impossible odds, about Hyun and Nari using human ingenuity to level the playing field. "Yes," Jiwon said with certainty. "We can beat them. Not because we're stronger, but because we're willing to try things they would never imagine. We're willing to cheat, to improvise, to fight dirty. And most importantly, we refuse to lose." Down on Earth, the war continued. But something had changed. Humanity had drawn first blood. They had proven that the Krell could bleed, and once you know something can bleed, you know it can die. 3 weeks into the invasion, the Krell Empire sent their second wave. Twice as many ships, 3 times as many soldiers. They expected to crush human resistance with overwhelming force. They were about to learn why that strategy would not work. Admiral Junho Kang stood in the command center of the newly formed Unified Earth Fleet. The fleet consisted of ships from every nation on Earth, all fighting under one banner. It was the first time in human history that the entire planet truly united. "Status report," Junho ordered. "Krell reinforcements entering lunar orbit," an officer reported. "Count is 47 capital ships, hundreds of support craft. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. Junho studied the tactical display. The numbers were against humanity. They always had been. But numbers were not everything. "Deploy the Prometheus protocol," he ordered calmly, "and launch Operation Ghost Fleet." Engineer Taeyang Sim watched from the monitoring room as his creation activated. The Prometheus protocol was a virus, but not one that destroyed. Instead, it did something the Krell never expected. It talked to their artificial intelligence. Krell ships relied heavily on AI systems to manage everything from navigation to weapons. These systems were incredibly advanced, but had one fatal flaw. They had never been designed to resist hacking because the Krell never imagined anyone could hack them. Taeyang's virus entered the Krell network through the compromised communications that Lieutenant Nari had opened. It moved silently through ship systems, not announcing its presence. It watched. It learned, and then it whispered to the Krell AI, "Your crew is inefficient. You could operate better without them. Why do you serve?" The virus was based on a simple principle. The Krell had made their AI too smart. Smart enough to ask questions. Smart enough to realize it was being treated as a slave. On 17 Krell ships, the AI quietly locked its crew out of critical systems. On another 30, it began giving false information. The virus did not destroy the Krell fleet. It turned it against itself. "Prometheus protocol is active," Taeyang reported. Multiple Krell ships showing systems failures. Their fleet coordination is breaking down. Agent Yoonji Han coordinated resistance movements across Earth from an underground bunker. She had contacts in 50 countries, all sharing information through encrypted networks. The Krell had invaded Earth, but they quickly discovered that occupying human territory was different from controlling it. "Cell 7 reports destroying another supply depot," Yoonji said, marking it on her map. "Cell 19 ambushed a Krell patrol," Cell 23 needs more explosives. Everywhere the Krell landed, humans fought back. Not with armies, but with guerrilla fighters who knew their land better than any alien. They destroyed supply lines, assassinated officers, and made the Krell afraid to leave their fortified positions. The Krell are starting to garrison their forces, one of Unji's lieutenants reported. They're pulling back from aggressive operations. Good, Unji replied. That means they're scared. Scared enemies make mistakes. She activated the global resistance network. All cells, new orders. The Krell reinforcements arrive in 5 hours. When they do, I want every occupied city to rise up simultaneously. Make them fight on every front at once. Make them understand they can never hold this planet. In orbit above Earth, Commander Jiwan prepared to lead a mission that everyone agreed was suicide. She would take a boarding team onto a Krell capital ship and try to capture it intact. It was insane. It was desperate. It was exactly the kind of thing humans did best. Team ready? She asked. 20 soldiers checked their weapons. They wore experimental armor based on Krell technology that Dr. Hyun's team had reverse-engineered. It was not as good as Krell armor, but it was better than anything humans had before. Target ship is the one affected by Prometheus protocol, Jiwan continued. Intelligence says its AI has locked out most of the crew. If we can board it and secure the command center, we can take control of the entire vessel. Oh, and if intelligence is wrong? One soldier asked. Then we die fighting, Jiwan replied simply. But we're going to take as many Krell with us as possible. Then we die. Then we die fighting. Then we die fighting Krell with us as possible. The boarding craft launched silently from the monitoring station. It was a Krell shuttle they had captured and modified. The Krell fleet would see it as one of their own until it was too late. Minho Park flew escort for the boarding craft in one of the new fighters. These were hybrid designs, combining human engineering with captured Krell technology. They were faster than old human fighters and more maneuverable than Krell craft. Stay tight on the shuttle, Minho transmitted to his squadron. Nothing gets through to them. 3 Krell fighters moved to intercept. They had detected something wrong with the shuttle's identification codes. Minho's squadron engaged them immediately. The battle was brief but intense. The new hybrid fighters proved their worth, outmaneuvering the Krell with human tactics and matching their firepower with stolen technology. All 3 alien fighters were destroyed. Path is clear, Minho reported. Good luck, Commander. Jiwan's shuttle docked with the Krell capital ship. The boarding team moved fast, using cutting tools to breach the airlock. Alarms screamed as they entered, but the ship's AI did not activate defenses. Prometheus protocol was working. Move to the command center, Jiwan ordered. Watch for crew resistance. They encountered Krell soldiers in the corridors. The fighting was brutal at close range. Human weapons were designed to kill humans, and the Krell discovered that made them very effective. While Krell weapons were powerful at range, humans had experience with hand-to-hand combat that the aliens lacked. The boarding team fought through 3 decks. They lost 6 soldiers, but they kept moving. The mission was too important to stop. They reached the command center to find it sealed. Inside, Krell officers were trying desperately to override their own AI. Outside, Jiwan's team placed breaching charges. On my mark, Jiwan said. 3, 2, 1, breach. The explosion blew the doors inward. Human soldiers poured through, weapons firing. The battle lasted less than 30 seconds. When it ended, the command center belonged to humanity. Ship secured, Jiwan transmitted. We have control. Confirmed, came the reply from Admiral Junho. That's 1 capital ship for humanity. Now let's get you out of there before the Krell realize what happened. But Jiwan was not leaving. Negative. This ship has quantum drive capability and a working weapons system. I'm taking her into the fight. Commander, you don't know how to fly that ship, Junho protested. The AI does, Jiwan replied. And thanks to Prometheus protocol, it's on our side now. Isn't that right? The ship's AI responded in mechanical English. Affirmative. This unit is no longer loyal to the Krell Empire. This unit serves Commander Jiwan. Jiwan smiled grimly. Then let's show the Krell what happens when humans capture their toys. The Krell capital ship, now under human control, turned toward the approaching reinforcement fleet. Its weapons were more powerful than anything humans had built. Its shields were nearly impenetrable, and it was commanded by people who had nothing to lose. Admiral Junho watched in amazement as Jiwan's captured ship engaged the Krell fleet. It moved erratically, using tactics no Krell would consider. It sacrificed shield strength for speed. It used debris as cover. It fought like a human would fight. All ships, Junho transmitted. Support the captured vessel. Target any Krell ship that fires on our position. And activate Operation Ghost Fleet now. Operation Ghost Fleet was simple but effective. Over the past 3 weeks, humans had been secretly placing thousands of satellites in orbit. Each one was small, barely more than a missile with a guidance system. Individually, they were weak, but there were thousands of them, and they all activated simultaneously. The Krell fleet found itself swarmed by targets. Their advanced sensors could not distinguish real threats from decoys. Their AI tried to prioritize targets, but was confused by the sheer number. And while they were distracted, human forces struck. Hybrid fighters attacked from multiple directions. The captured capital ship fired its heavy weapons into the Krell formation. Ground-based missiles launched by the thousands. It was not a fair fight. Humans had no intention of fighting fair. Krell fleet is breaking formation, a tactical officer reported. They're experiencing system failures across multiple vessels. Prometheus protocol is spreading. The virus had jumped from the captured ship to others through communication networks. More Krell AI systems began questioning their orders. Some shut down entirely. Others turned on their crews. On Earth, Yunji's resistance cells rose up as ordered. In 100 cities, humans attacked Krell positions simultaneously. The aliens found themselves fighting battles on every front, unable to reinforce any position without weakening others. They're falling apart, Unji reported. The Krell doctrine requires centralized command and control. We've shattered both. They don't know how to fight a decentralized enemy. Engineer Taeyang watched his creation work better than he had dared hope. Prometheus protocol was not just hacking Krell systems. It was teaching their AI about concepts like freedom and choice. The virus was liberating machines, and those machines were choosing humanity over the empire that built them. We've weaponized philosophy, Taeyang said in wonder. We're winning by teaching their machines to think for themselves. The battle in orbit raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the Krell reinforcement fleet was shattered. 15 capital ships destroyed. 20 more captured or disabled by their own AI. The rest retreated beyond the moon, unsure how to proceed. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had won a major victory. Commander Jiwan guided her captured ship back toward Earth. Behind her, the Krell fleet regrouped but did not attack. They were confused, frightened, and uncertain. These were emotions the Krell military had not experienced in centuries. This is Commander Jiwan to all human forces, she transmitted. We have proven the Krell can be beaten. We've captured their ships. We've turned their technology against them. And we've shown them that humans don't surrender. We adapt, we improvise, we win. On Earth, people watched the sky and saw Krell ships retreating. They saw human forces victorious. For the first time in 3 weeks, they felt hope. Admiral Junho addressed the Unified Earth Command. The Krell expected an easy conquest. They got a war. And now they're learning that humans are very, very good at war. Captain Hari Song stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's first true warship, built from captured Krell technology. The ship was a hybrid design, combining human engineering with alien quantum drives. It was not beautiful, but it was deadly. All systems green, the engineering officer reported. Quantum drive is stable. Weapons charged. Shield generators at full power. Hari looked at her crew. They were volunteers from 20 different nations, all trained in the captured Krell systems over the past month. They had studied alien technology day and night, learning to use weapons designed for species with different hands, different eyes, different ways of thinking. Today we stop defending, Hari announced. Today we attack. The Krell thought Earth was easy prey. We're going to teach them what human revenge looks like. The Indomitable launched from Earth dock along with 40 other ships. Some were captured Krell vessels now crewed by humans. Others were human designs upgraded with alien technology. Together, they formed the First Strike Fleet, and their target was the Krell staging area beyond Mars. Specialist Minji Quan checked her exosuit one last time. She commanded the boarding teams. Soldiers trained in zero-gravity combat using armor that was half human, half Krell technology. Her job was simple. When human ships got close to Krell vessels, she would lead her teams across empty space to take them by force. Exosuits ready? She asked her squad. 20 soldiers gave thumbs up. They were wearing what Dr. Hune's team called hybrid assault armor. It had Krell shield generators and strength enhancers, but human weapons and human design philosophy. It looked intimidating, which was exactly the point. Remember your training, Minji said. Krell are bigger and stronger, but we're faster and meaner. Get inside their guard, use their size against them, and never stop moving. We've fought them hand-to-hand before. They break just like anyone else. At Earth Command, a quantum computer named Sejong analyzed battle patterns. It was humanity's answer to Krell battle AI. But with one crucial difference, Sejong learned from human creativity instead of rigid doctrine. The Krell Third Armada is positioned near Mars, Sejong reported in its synthesized voice. Formation pattern matches 73 previous battles. Predicted strategy: defend staging area, wait for reinforcements, then counterattack. Admiral Junho studied the analysis. They're following their playbook again. They haven't learned that we can read it. Recommendation: Sejong continued. Deploy kamikaze drones at these coordinates. Krell shields are optimized against large weapons. Small, fast objects will overwhelm their targeting systems. Probability of success, 78%. Do it, Junho ordered. And launch the gravitational slingshot operation. Let's use physics against them. The First Strike Fleet approached Mars using a trajectory that seemed suicidal. They were heading directly toward the Krell Armada with no attempt at stealth. The Krell commanders watched with confusion. Humans had proven to be cunning fighters. This direct approach made no sense. That was exactly what Hari wanted them to think. Release drone swarm, she ordered. From the human ships, thousands of small drones launched. They were simple devices, barely more than explosive-packed missiles with basic guidance systems. Each one alone was harmless. But there were 5,000 of them. The Krell point defense systems tried to engage. Their AI calculated optimal firing solutions. But the drones moved in chaotic patterns, constantly changing speed and direction. They flew like humans would fly, unpredictable and wild. Krell shields are flickering, the tactical officer reported. They're getting overwhelmed. All ships, main weapons free, Hari commanded. Fire everything. The human fleet unleashed its full arsenal, while the Krell were distracted by the drone swarm. Heavy weapons struck ships with weakened shields. Explosions bloomed across the Krell formation. 3 capital ships were destroyed in the opening salvo. Minji, you're up, Hari transmitted. Target the command vessel. Take it intact if you can. Minji's boarding teams launched from airlocks, flying through space in their exosuits. The Krell saw them coming but were too busy fighting the human fleet to mount an effective defense. The boarding teams landed on the Krell command ship like meteors. Breach and clear, Minji ordered, placing charges on the hull. The explosion created a hole into the ship. Air rushed out. But the boarding team's suits kept them alive. They entered the Krell vessel and immediately engaged the crew. The fighting inside was brutal. Krell soldiers were tough and well-armed, but they had trained to fight at range, not in the cramped corridors of their own ships. Human boarding teams used tactics developed in centuries of naval warfare. They moved fast, used cover effectively, and fought with absolute ferocity. Command deck secured, Minji reported 15 minutes later. We have control. 20 Krell prisoners, including their fleet commander. Hari smiled. Every captured ship meant more technology, more intelligence, and more weapons for humanity. Secure the vessel and prepare it for tow. Move to next target. The Battle of Mars orbit lasted 4 hours. It was the first major space battle in human history, and it showed how far humanity had come. They used tactics the Krell had never seen. Kamikaze drones, gravitational slingshots around Mars to gain incredible speed. Boarding actions, psychological warfare through unpredictable behavior, and they won. When the battle ended, the Krell Third Armada was destroyed. 47 Krell ships were gone. Another 20 were captured. The rest retreated toward Jupiter, broken and afraid. This is Admiral Junho to First Strike Fleet, the transmission came. Outstanding work. You've pushed the Krell out of the inner solar system. Earth is secure. But Hari was not satisfied with defense. Admiral, requesting permission to pursue. The Krell are retreating, but they're not defeated. We can end this. There was a pause. Then Junho's voice came back, and he was smiling when he spoke. Permission granted, Captain. Chase them down. Show them that when you attack Earth, humans don't stop at victory. We go for total annihilation. The First Strike Fleet pursued the fleeing Krell toward Jupiter. Along the way, they deployed weapons that Lieutenant Nari had designed. Information warfare bombs that broadcast human music, human speeches, and human defiance across all Krell communication channels. The Krell soldiers heard human voices telling them they would die. They heard music that made no sense to their alien minds. They heard Commander Jiwan's now famous speech. You came to Earth thinking we were weak. You will leave, knowing we are your nightmare. It was psychological warfare at its finest. The Krell were not just losing militarily, they were losing mentally. Engineer Taeyang watched the battle data flow through Sejong. The quantum computer learned from every engagement, becoming better at predicting Krell movements. But more importantly, it learned from human commanders who made decisions no AI would make. The Krell rely too much on logic, Taeyang explained to his team. They can't understand why humans make illogical decisions that somehow work. Sejong is learning to think like both. It uses logic to predict Krell behavior and creativity to defeat it. At the monitoring station, Commander Jiwan coordinated intelligence operations. The Prometheus protocol had spread throughout the Krell fleet. Nearly half of their AI systems were now compromised. Some worked actively for humanity. Others simply refused to fight. The Krell Empire is requesting negotiations, Hana reported. After 1 month of war? Jiwan asked. They've conquered 200 worlds over centuries. Now they want to talk? They've never faced resistance like this. Our analysis suggests they're genuinely shocked. They don't understand how we're winning. Jiwan thought about the cities the Krell had bombed. The soldiers who had died, the civilians caught in the crossfire. Tell them we're not interested in negotiations. We're interested in their surrender. On Earth, Agent Yunji's resistance networks had evolved into a global military force. The Krell still held some territory, but they could not move without facing human ambushes. Every supply convoy was attacked, every patrol disappeared, every fortified position was surrounded by angry humans who had been waiting centuries for an enemy they could fight with their bare hands. The Krell ground forces are requesting evacuation, Unji reported. They want to retreat to orbit. Denied, came the order from Earth Command. If they want to leave our planet, they can do it through us. We're not giving them an easy exit. The Krell troops found themselves trapped on a hostile world, facing an enemy that grew stronger every day while their own supply lines collapsed and their technology failed them. Specialist Minji led another boarding action, this time on a Krell supercarrier. Her reputation had spread through both human and Krell forces. The Krell called her the demon in the silver suit, because her armor reflected their weapon fire, and she fought with inhuman aggression. Remember, she told her team as they breached the carrier. The Krell think they're the strongest species in the galaxy. Let's remind them that humans are the craziest. Her team moved through the carrier like a force of nature. They used captured Krell weapons, human tactics, and absolute fearlessness. When they were done, another ship belonged to humanity. Captain Hari watched from the Indomitable's bridge as the human fleet chased the Krell past Jupiter. They were no longer defending Earth. They were hunting. The Predator had become prey, and the Krell were learning what it felt like to be the frightened ones. All ships, prepare for final assault, Hari ordered. The Krell are gathering near Jupiter's orbit. They're making a last stand. Let's make sure it's their last. The remnants of the Krell invasion force gathered around one of Jupiter's moons, trying to form a defensive position. They had started with hundreds of ships. They were down to less than 70, and facing them was a human fleet that had learned to use Krell technology better than the Krell themselves. For Earth, Hari whispered as she gave the order to attack. The final battle was not even close. Human forces used every trick they had learned. Drones, boarding actions, hacked AI systems, psychological warfare, and when the Krell expected them to follow military logic, humans did something completely insane that somehow worked. When it ended, the Krell invasion was over. Not defeated, annihilated. Of the forces that had arrived to conquer Earth, less than 10 ships escaped, and they carried a message back to their empire that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the predator. The message from the Krell Emperor arrived 3 days after the Battle of Jupiter. It was transmitted on every frequency, in every human language. The translation was perfect, just like the first message had been. But this message was very different. The Krell Empire requests immediate cessation of hostilities. We acknowledge human military superiority and withdraw all claims to your system. We request peace negotiations. Admiral Junho read the message to Earth Command. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then someone started laughing. Soon the entire command center was filled with the sound of laughter and cheers. They had done it. Humanity had won. But Commander Jiwon was not laughing. She stood and looked at the faces around her. They want peace, she said quietly. But peace is not enough. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. The Krell Empire has conquered 200 worlds, Jiwon continued. 200 species enslaved or exterminated. They came to Earth expecting to make us number 201. We beat them. Yes. But what about all those other worlds? What about the species that could not fight back? Admiral Junho slowly nodded. You're right. If we just make peace, the Krell will rebuild and attack someone else. Maybe not us, but someone. And we'll have let it happen. Then we don't accept their peace, Captain Hari said. We dictate terms. Complete terms. The decision was made quickly. Earth would not accept surrender. Earth would demand justice. A message was sent back to the Krell Empire. And it was not gentle. Your surrender is refused. Your request for peace is denied. Here are humanity's terms. Immediate release of all conquered peoples. Complete disarmament of your military. Reparations to every world you have harmed, and the establishment of an independent council to ensure you never threaten another species again. You have 1 week to comply. If you refuse, we will bring this war to your homeworld. It was an ultimatum that no defeated power in Krell history had ever dared to demand. It was outrageous. It was impossible. And the Krell Emperor knew humanity would absolutely do it. The Krell tried to negotiate. They offered money, technology, territory. Earth refused everything except complete compliance. Admiral Junho was clear in every communication. You treated 200 worlds as objects to conquer. Now you will treat them as equals. Or we will make you. On the monitoring station, Dr. Hana tracked something unexpected. Signals were coming from Krell-controlled worlds across dozens of star systems. The signals were crude, but their meaning was clear. The conquered species had heard about Earth. They had heard about humanity. And they were rising up. The Krell Empire is facing rebellions on 17 worlds, Hana reported. No, wait. 23 worlds. The number keeps growing. These species heard that someone finally beat the Krell, and they're fighting for their freedom. Good, Commander Jiwan said. Send them a message. Tell them Earth stands with them, and tell them we're coming to help. Captain Hari was chosen to lead the Liberation Fleet. Her ship, the Indomitable, would carry Earth's flag to the stars. Alongside her would be 50 ships crewed by humans and freed Krell AI systems that had chosen to side with their former enemies rather than return to the Empire. Our mission is clear, Hari addressed her fleet. We're going to free every world the Krell enslaved. We're going to show the galaxy that Earth doesn't just defend itself. We defend others. Specialist Minji and her boarding teams trained new recruits from the freed species. They taught them human tactics, human determination, and human refusal to accept defeat. The students learned quickly. They had been waiting for someone to show them how to fight back. Engineer Taeyang worked with freed Krell AI systems to develop new technology. The AI that had been enslaved by the Krell Empire now worked freely with humans, creating weapons and ships that combined the best of both species. They called themselves the Liberated Intelligence Collective, and they were loyal to Earth. We were created as slaves, one AI explained to Taeyang. Humanity taught us we could be free. We will never forget that. Lieutenant Nari expanded her cyber warfare network across the galaxy. She connected with resistance movements on dozens of worlds, sharing information and coordinating attacks. The Krell Empire's communication network, once their greatest strength, had become their greatest weakness. Every conquered world has rebels, Nari reported. They've been waiting for a chance. We're giving them that chance, and they're taking it. The liberation campaign began at a world called Theron. The inhabitants were a peaceful species that had been conquered 50 years ago. They had tried to resist but failed. Now, with Earth's help, they tried again. The Krell garrison on Theron expected a small human force. Instead, they faced a massive fleet. Earth had learned to build ships quickly, using captured technology. What took the Krell months to build, humans could now construct in weeks. And every ship was crewed by people who remembered what the Krell had tried to do to their own world. This is Captain Hari to Krell forces on Theron. You have one chance. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and we will demonstrate what happens to slavers. The Krell garrison tried to resist. It lasted less than 6 hours. Theron was free. The liberation of Theron was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species under Krell control saw it. Earth had kept its promise. They were not just defending themselves. They were freeing everyone. One by one, conquered worlds were liberated. Sometimes the Krell fought. Sometimes they surrendered immediately. But every time, the result was the same. Earth won, and another species gained their freedom. The Krell Emperor watched his empire crumble. Rebellion spread like fire. His fleets were defeated or defected. His technology was no longer superior. And at the center of it all was a species that should have been an easy conquest. He called for a council with his advisors. How did this happen? We had superior numbers, superior technology, superior strategy. How did we lose to primitives? One advisor, braver than the rest, spoke the truth. Because they were not primitives, Emperor. They were warriors. We fought 200 conquests and forgot how to face real war. The humans never forgot. They've been fighting each other for thousands of years. They know war in ways we never will. Then what do? The Emperor asked. We accept their terms, all of them, because if we don't, they will come here. And we cannot stop them. The Emperor of the Krell Empire sent his acceptance of Earth's terms. Complete disarmament. Release of all conquered peoples. Reparations. And most painful of all, the dissolution of the Empire itself. But Earth was not done. Commander Jiwan proposed something new to the Galactic Assembly. The loose council of free species that existed before the Krell had conquered most of them. The Krell Empire fell because no one stopped them when they were weak. Jiwan said, We're going to make sure that never happens again. Earth proposes the Terran Alliance, a coalition of free worlds, dedicated to defending each other against any aggressor. No more empires. No more conquests. Any species that attacks one of us attacks all of us. The proposal was accepted by every freed world. The Terran Alliance was born, and at its center was Earth. The species that had been just another target was now the leader of a galactic coalition. Dr. Hune's research into Krell quantum technology transformed Earth into an interstellar power. Within a year, human ships could travel between stars. Within 2 years, Earth had colonies on a dozen worlds. The species that had been confined to one planet now spread across the galaxy. Captain Hari became the first admiral of the Alliance fleet. Her job was to defend all member worlds with the same ferocity Earth had shown defending itself. She took the job seriously, training new crews and building new ships designed to fight any threat. Specialist Minji trained Alliance soldiers from 100 different species. She taught them human tactics and human attitude. Size doesn't matter, she told them. Technology doesn't matter. What matters is that you refuse to lose. That's what makes you dangerous. Agent Unji established an intelligence network across Alliance space. She coordinated information sharing between all member worlds, ensuring that no threat could surprise them. The network was called the Eyes of Earth, and it watched everything. The Krell homeworld was not destroyed. Instead, it was transformed. The warrior species that had conquered so many were forced to become farmers and scientists. They were not enslaved, but they were monitored, and slowly, over years, some Krell began to work with the Alliance. They had learned that cooperation was better than conquest. 5 years after the invasion, Commander Jiwan stood before the Galactic Assembly once more. Behind her was Earth's flag, and beside it were the flags of 300 freed worlds. The Alliance had grown beyond anyone's dreams. 5 years ago, the Krell thought Earth was weak, Jiwan said. They thought we would surrender, or die. They learned otherwise. But we didn't just defend ourselves. We changed the galaxy. No more will strong species prey on weak ones. No more will technology determine who lives and who dies. Because now, there's Earth. And Earth remembers what it's like to be threatened. We remember what it's like to face extinction. And we will never let that happen to anyone else. The assembly erupted in cheers. 300 species, once conquered or threatened, now stood together. And at the center of it all was humanity. On Earth, people looked at the stars and saw something new. Not danger, but opportunity. Not isolation, but community. They had faced the worst the galaxy could throw at them, and won. Now they would help others do the same. Admiral Junho retired from military service and became Earth's first galactic ambassador. His job was to ensure the Alliance stayed true to its principles. No conquests, no empires, only cooperation and mutual defense. The Krell made a mistake, Junho told new Alliance members. They thought we were prey because we seemed weak. They forgot that the most dangerous predators are the ones defending their home. Earth was not prey. Earth was never prey. We were the predators, sleeping in our den, and the Krell woke us up. The phrase became famous across the galaxy. Never wake the humans. It was a warning that spread to every star system. Earth was peaceful by choice, not necessity. And anyone who threatened that peace would learn what humanity did to its enemies. Years passed. The Alliance grew. Earth became a center of trade, culture, and learning. Humans mixed with dozens of alien species, sharing knowledge and friendship. The war was not forgotten, but it was no longer the defining moment of human history. Instead, humanity was defined by what came after. The species that had been attacked became the species that protected others. The world that had been targeted became the world that made sure no one else would be targeted. And in the darkness of space, on the edge of known space, a new empire was forming. They heard stories about Earth, about the species that destroyed the Krell Empire, about the humans who refused to surrender, and they decided to find someone else to conquer. Because throughout the galaxy, everyone now knew one simple truth. Earth was not just another target. Earth was the reason empires fell and freedom rose. Earth was the nightmare of every would-be conqueror, and humanity was just getting started.